Hi there, my name is Ryan Adamoyo, and I'm here to talk a little bit about myself as well as introduce the virtual reality project that I'm working on for the Indigenous Screen Office. So, um, I come from a Regina, Saskatchewan, and I'm a full Cree, and both of my parents are Cree, but I was raised in a white middle class neighborhood. And because both of my parents are Indigenous studies professors, they would take me to the reserve on the weekend where I would dance powwow, I would go to sweat lodges, I would go to round dances. In fact, I would go to all night ceremonies in a teepee on the reserve surrounded by the elders of my community, and we would do peyote all night where you get these visions. And it was just a very different way of growing up because in the morning after these ceremonies, we would sit down, hey, and we would talk about things like Pawakan, spirit guardians, or we talk about pastahoan, the idea of curses or Indian love medicine. We talk about Wittagos, cannibals, Wasaki Chak, the trickster. And so it was kind of this magical time in my life, but on Mondays, I'd have to go back to this white middle class neighborhood. So it was really different. It was a really different way of growing up. See, I never fit in with the kids on the reserve, but I also never fit in with the kids in the city. And so it was very different. But I always loved stories, and I loved our stories. So as I got older, I got into theater. There wasn't a big film scene in Saskatchewan. And once I graduated, I joined the Saskatchewan Native Theater Company, where they hired me to go from reserve to reserve to reserve, where I would help the kids put on these plays. And I got to see just how poor some of these northern reserves were, right? And it really made me introspective and made me want to see more of the world. So after that, I traveled to Korea, where I was teaching English through acting. And over there, all of a sudden, instead of my hometown, racist Regina, I was the exotic Indian in the Orient. And it was so different, right? It was just so different. I had people from Australia, people from South Africa, people from New Zealand, all that wanted to know me and kind of to learn about my upbringing and what I had done, what I had seen. And so it was kind of a mind trip. And over there, I met my Korean wife. And I remember one day I was there and I was teaching the kids, and they asked me, Teacher, where are you from? What's your background? And I said, Well, I'm one of the Indigenous peoples of Canada. I'm Aboriginal. I'm Native American. I'm Indian. And they all looked at me like, Huh? What? What? And I said to them, I had to perpetuate the stereotype. And I said, Whoa, whoa, whoa. And they all looked at me, You see, I realized that these kids weren't racist. They just knew what they saw on TV. So I said, okay, well, that means that I've got to really try to learn movies, that theater wasn't going to reach them. So I took my Korean wife home to Vancouver and started making films and started getting into visual effects and virtual reality. And now I'm into TV writing, where I get to share some of my Indigenous background and stories and experiences. And so it's been a real fun trip. And that brought me to the attention of the ISO and this MIT project. And Kat actually helped us with this handout about exploring how we came to our ideas, how we wanted it to come to fruition, and what we wanted the experience to be afterwards. So anyway, I will. With that having been said, I'll tell you about my project a little bit. You see, my project is called Pawakan, and in Cree that means spirit guardian. You see, I had this story about in my head where there's this man that wakes up in his apartment and he can't get out, right? He tries and tries and he can't get out. Bangs at the door, he can't get out. And we get to see this all through virtual reality. And he starts experiencing these weird things happen where he can kind of see through the walls and through the ceiling. It becomes translucent. That idea is if you hold your hand up to a bright light source, you can kind of see through your hand, is how he can kind of see through the ceiling and through the walls. And he starts seeing these really ginormous heads looking in, and it scares the heck out of him, hey? So you can imagine in virtual reality, you're witnessing that with you as well, where you see this big head kind of bearing down and peeking in on you almost. And so this man's all freaking out until in the mirror he spots this faceless reflection of him. And this faceless being speaks to him and says, I'm your Pawakan, I'm your spirit guardian, and I'm here to guide you. And he asks, is this heaven or hell? And it tells him, there is no heaven or hell. You're not a Christian. This is just the place afterwards where you learn to deal with what happened to you and what you did. And so in this story, this man he comes to learn through these different experiences where we go to a teepee on the reserve. we go to a hogan where we used to have different ceremonies, and he learns that he did wrong, that he committed pastahoen, the idea that if you commit an offense against the natural world, that this curse will come back on you. So we reveal that what happens is that he learned that he lost his daughter and he lost his family, and that he got drunk one night, he went out to the beach, and in the water he started whistling at the northern lights. And for us, in my culture, we believe that those northern lights are our ancestors, and you're never supposed to whistle at them. That is breaking one of the rules of pastaho, and especially if you're drinking, you're really kind of inviting disaster on you. So he does that, and then he watches himself kill himself, and that's the sin that he's committed. So he comes to wrestle with this fact, and then he eventually realizes, okay, I can let go and I can go join my ancestors in those northern lights. But yeah, it's a little short film in virtual reality, and the lesson is to be, respect your own culture, come to terms, and let go of the past. So I found that virtual reality would be a really good tool for this. I wanted to take it inside of a teepee, which I'm going to go shoot in Saskatchewan in next week actually. And I wanted to take it to a hogan where I've spent many ceremonies. I can't show the ceremonies, but I can show kind of where they take place. And one of my other things, I'll have this guy on the prairies, and we'll see these large clouds, kind of storm clouds overhead, and we'll see one of these shadow beings kind of looking in. And one of the benefits of virtual reality is that you can look up and it'll be big as life, where you see this kind of being look inside. So I'm going to be pulling on my visual effects experiences to do this. So yeah, that's a little bit about my project, and thank you for your time and consideration. Bye now.